Hoi hoi folks, good morning, good afternoon and good evening wherever you are in the world. My name's Sean, aka Uncle Frogface, and welcome to today's video. If you're new here, then welcome. If you're not new, then welcome back. Today, I'm actually going to be sharing with you a bit of a speed paint. So, recently I joined a monthly prompt squad, and this is my second entry into the prompt squad. But a prompt squad is a social media group where once a month we're given a new prompt and we have to create a piece of artwork to fulfill that prompt. So, if you've seen my Scrawler box unboxings and we get our little Scrawler challenge in there with our prompt for the month, it's a similar idea, but we can all kind of chat and bounce off each other, and it's a really nice social group. Those pieces also get shared on YouTube, so I'll leave a link down below to past prompt squad challenges. It's hard to say. Past prompt squad challenges, so you can check those out as well. So, this month's prompt was my favourite poem or short story, and as I'm talking to you, Tinkerbell, the cat, is wandering in front of me. Tink. She obviously wants the limelight. Here she is. Say hello, Tinkerbell. Mwah. Okay, off you go. So our prompt this month was favourite poem or short story, and as some of you might know, I am also a horror author, so I've got a couple of horror books out there if you wanted to purchase them. Again, links down below. But I've been a massive horror fan since I was a small child. My dad was a big horror fan. I remember reading I think It was the first horror story I read when I was like 12 years old. And it's just kind of informed the media that I consume. Love anything related to horror. Got a cat hair on my chin. So, one of my favourite short stories is by one of my favourite authors, Clive Barker. So this story also influenced Hellraiser and that whole franchise, and it is of course the Hellbound Heart. So, I did a piece in Procreate, and we're going to swap over now and we'll go through the whole process from sketch to finish. But before we do that, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on those notification bells so you never miss any videos in the future. Let's get into it. So as I said, this is Procreate on the iPad with an Apple Pencil. And I've kind of got into this thing lately of just being really loose with initial sketching, which is what I'm doing here because it's really, really messy. But actually, when I've got something in my mind, this kind of thing really helps me come up with, as Bob Ross would say, happy little accidents. Little things that I wouldn't have expected to do that actually I really like and enjoy. So I initially decided that I wanted to have quite a long, stretched out, stylized character. And I've put the shoulders quite far down and the neck's quite long. But actually, as we go on, the proportions all change. So, a little bit late, but I finally put in a grey toned background. That's just because I'm putting in some shading now, so I want to be able to put the shadows as well as the highlights. And this whole piece has all been about push and pull and little tweaks and pushing the shadows back and then pulling the highlights up, all of that kind of stuff. So once I've got kind of like a charcoal-y sketch in the background, again, I'm going in, I've put a layer on top of this, which is just plain white, and then another layer, and I'm just sketching over the top, seeing what I like, seeing what I don't. Again, it's that kind of idea generation part of the sketch. And again, there we can see I brought the shoulders up a little bit, made that neck a little bit shorter, and I'm going to be tweaking this all the way through. And I'm kind of doing different things here, so I'm sketching, I'm drawing, I'm painting as well, I'm using overlay layers, lots of different things to get that look and that feel that I want. So here I'm sketching in a little cube, because if you're familiar with the story of the Hellbound Heart and with Hellraiser, there is a puzzle box, and the puzzle box, once completed and opened, unleashes the Cenobytes and all of the denizens of one of the circles of hell, where pain and pleasure are kind of intermixed. And interestingly, in the original story in Hellbound Heart, the puzzle box is just a plain mirrored box with no grooves or markings or anything on the surface, so it doesn't even look like a puzzle box. But for the purposes of this, I wanted to have something a little bit more familiar for people that might know the Hellraiser series. So I've gone for a little bit more of the actual movie prop of the box. And to help me get the hand in the place that I wanted to do, get rid of the background character, sketch the hand in the place that I wanted to do. You see that the hand and the box is much bigger than the rest of the character to give that that perspective that he's holding the box out to you in the front. And again, we're just refining, pushing back the shadows, putting out the highlights, all that kind of stuff. If you're familiar again with the story, you'll know that their chains and hooks feature quite prominently. So I put these guidelines in the background for where I want some chains to be. I've got some kind of mess in the background as well, just to add a little bit of textural difference. And now we're adding some colour. So it's just on an overlay layer. Got the colours that I want. I'm going in afterwards and slightly refining them, painting over the top of it. I've got some rim lighting as well, which in terms of rim lights is actually really dark. People expect rim lights to be, you know, a really bright tonal value, but actually this is not, because the whole piece is quite dark. So I wanted to keep those rim lights dark as well, give that kind of indication of maybe some glowing firelight in the background. Tried adding a little bit of yellow, didn't quite like it, so I decided just to stick with the red in the background. And here we are with those chains, and I'm just playing around with some brushes to see what I like. The kind of sketchiness wasn't really working for me, so I went for this very plain, almost just a plain round brush. And I'm sketching in, trying to stick to a straight line, which didn't work very well there, but going back, sketching in again, and then finding the right overlay layer that I want, Gaussian blur. I also copy and flip that, Gaussian blur again, and erase some of that as well. So we're getting some depth in the background. Now we're onto that all-important grid over Pinhead's head, which, interestingly enough, Clive Barker hated the term Pinhead, and in the Scarlet Gospel, which is a sequel that merges a couple of Clive Barker stories, a character actually uses Pinhead as a derogatory term for this character. I think in the stories he's just known as Lead Cenobite, which is interesting. But yeah, for the purposes of this, Pinhead, we're getting his pins into his head, and it was really interesting for me thinking about where the pins are going in and the angle and what would make it look most realistic. So I kind of thought about the head as a sphere and these points coming out as if from the center of the sphere coming outwards to give that effect that the pins are in 3D space, and of course following the contours of the face as well. So once we've got the pins in and some shadows as well, it's time to work a little bit on this box. And getting in an indication of the design that's there. I'm not going for anything kind of movie accurate. I just want to have a little indication that we've got a little bit of that design there, and adding a little bit of glow as well. There we are, all finished, and he is completed, and that is our monthly prompt squad all done. As always, I really hope you've enjoyed today's video, and until next time, goodbye.